And welcome back to the Wide League. We're here with what, round 7 now? And I am
Yep.
joined by Evan VGC. How are you doing today, Evan?
Hi, I'm doing so good. This tour has been a blast, and it's such a pleasure watching everyone else cast all the matches before this. Such an exciting start to the Scarlet and Violet era, right, in this Series 1 tournament.
It's incredibly exciting. And we've got an exciting match coming up
Oh
here
my
with
gosh.
Scarlet Skill, the 2018 Virginia Regional Champ, and Rough Dude Paul Ruiz himself, the 2018 World Champ. What an incredibly exciting matchup here.
Yeah, this is going to be such a clash. I believe both players are 6-0 in this. No, they're both 5-1. So
Okay,
definitely in it for the money, right? To get into top cut, and definitely
right.
has a shot to earn that very juicy prize money. Like sponsored by all amazing sponsors here.
Absolutely critical match here for both players. It's going to be interesting to see how this turns out. And of course, probably one of the best matchups of 2018 right here in 2022, right? So it should be starting over here in just a
That,
second.
that's
But
a that's actually an interesting like point to note about 2018, because back then the meta was like there was no Dynamax for sure, right?
right,
Back then in Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and this is like kind of very reminiscent of the meta that we are in right now. Very
yeah.
position based, and sometimes you might need to count on some surprises to get ahead in the game.
Right, right. So it looks like we get right into round 1 here, and we can start to kind of look at both teams' previews here. It's an interesting pick here for a Scarlet coming in with the Glade, Gengar, Talonflame, Grimmsnarl, Kingambit, and Rotom. A lot of familiar faces here. Of course, Kingambit new to the mix, but obviously already making a big, making its presence known in the meta so far. What do we have over here for the 2018 World Champ?
For Ruiz is bringing a very familiar mon to his 2018 Worlds run, which is Salamence, something he really does endear and have a close relationship with. And paired together with very interesting, like a Fire Water Grass core of Volcarona, Meowscarada, and the Azumarill. And then we have that, we call it Golden Rain, Goldango, and Murkrow to round the team out. A lot of good options here. I think mostly wanting to go fast and go hard, pretty hyper offensive in this early meta, which does make a lot of sense, and it really matches up very interestingly into Scarlet Skill or Dylan's team on the opposing end.
Right, right. Both players here bringing a lot of the steel offensive pressure that Paldea has to offer, and some new mixes into the meta. It's going to be really interesting to see how both of these teams go out here as we get closer to this matchup. Turn 1 is always critical for both players here. Okay, there we go. All right, back to reset. So looks like with that, we will take it right in there with these leads. Coming out for Apollo Ruiz, we have Azumarill and Murkrow. And on Scarlet side, we have Gengar and Talonflame. Interesting picks here for both sides. Who do you think's got the advantage here coming right off the bat?
Yeah, it's interesting. Both sides straight away leading their tailwind options. Two of
Right.
the premier, I think possibly the best priority tailwind options in the game right now, with
Right.
Murkrow naturally having Prankster and Talonflame having that Gale Wings ability. Gengar is naturally going to be faster, putting on a lot of offensive pressure, even threatening that poison type damage into the Azumarill. So Paul kind of has to be careful here with no redirection. And even if he sets up the tailwind, Azumarill can't possibly outspeed the Gengar. There is a chance Azumarill goes for like a huge power, what do you call it, the Aqua Jet. So let's see
Yeah.
if it happens here.
We'll see the tailwind coming off for Talonflame. Aqua Jet going straight into that Talonflame and taking it right out. So great call there. But Talonflame still able to get off that tailwind, which is exactly what it wants to do. Sludge Bomb firing off
There we
of
go.
the Gengar is going to leave Azumarill with just a sliver of health, but procking that berry, giving it just a little bit of life back into it. And we see Murkrow going for the foul play onto Gengar. Super effective, taking it down to just 40 HP. Really, both sides here trading some critical blows.
Exactly what we have seen all day, just trading blows left and right. But there are quite a few intricacies happening here. Notably, Scarlet Skill was the first person who set up Tailwind, and Paul
Yeah.
Ruiz did not set Tailwind at all, trusting the bulk in the Azumarill to be able to survive that Sludge Bomb. Now it gets to threaten both sides with yet another, I mean, more towards the Gengar with another Aqua Jet. So there could be a play where the Murkrow goes for like Tailwind plus Aqua Jet to try and outspeed the Talonflame to get it out, but Paul chooses to go this direction, which makes more sense because he now gets to set Tailwind in a later turn, like staggering the turns, and that kind of gives more advantage for the Pokemon in the back on his side, as we do see the King Gambit actually switch out Gengar too afraid to take the Aqua Jet.
Oh, and Paul Ruiz is going to go for the Tailwind. Now it's stacked in their favor, so the Tailwind's going to start going for them at the end of these turns. Nasty Plot going off for this Rotom is going to give it a critical special attack boost and allow it to be in a great prime position to start sweeping. If it can afford to do so here. Of course, now it threatens both sides with its electric typing. Murkrow, not necessarily known for its bulk, but of course, Azumarill wanting to get that threat off the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, so many like interesting strategies coming out and very positional plays. The Rotom going for setup when he had the chance, but the Murkrow fires back with that haze, right? Immediately eliminating those boosts and just reducing Rotom's special attack. We get to see Murkrow's item here. It might be Focus Sash, it might be the Eviolite, we're not too sure. As the King Gambit actually goes ahead to finish off that Azumarill with that little health.
Yeah, that Iron Head is not something it likes to take, but that Murkrow, yeah, hanging in there after that Thunderbolt, especially with that haze dropping it just a bit. Very, very interesting plays. Very, very great defensive plays here by Paul, and probably pretty critical coming up with this Tailwind ending here soon for Scarlet.
True.
Meowscarada also going to come in here for, sorry about that. Meowscarada coming in for Paul Ruiz, going to kind of even things up here and really put some offensive pressure on that side.
Yeah, Meowscarada would definitely threaten that Rotom, so having it kept in the back in his pocket for Paul is very useful here, and it naturally outspeeds both King Gambit and Rotom, also resists that Sucker Punch coming up from King Gambit, so it's able to just go ham here with those flower tricks, possibly even go for any knockoffs to discover some items, right, and like pressure a lot of damage on the board. It's very cool to see that Murkrow take that Thunderbolt earlier because it allows the Murkrows to be on the field yet again. I like this play, retreating it because you get to set Tailwind again in future turns. So now bringing in that Volcarona, revealing the last member of the Fire Water Grass core, really just putting on so much pressure onto Scarlet Skill's side.
100% saving that Tailwind for later. We see the Terastallization now going in for the Rotom. You can't haze away this buff. So probably going for a mean Thunderbolt here. The low sweep going off, firing into King Gambit. It was going to take it all the way out. Meowscarada transforming, using that Protean to make it a fighting type and take advantage of that. Thunderbolt's going to fire off into this likely... you'd hope it'd be the Volcarona slot, but it's not. Volcarona just coming in here. Meowscarada is actually going to take that out, and Scarlet's Tailwind has now ended, meaning the speed advantage is now on Paul's side of the field.
Yeah, what a fast-paced game, and I think that the electric terrestrialization on Rotom is very expected because you totally remove all of its weaknesses here. Gengar is forced to switch in. I believe Scarlet Skill is forced to forfeit here. There's so much offensive pressure with that one last turn of Tailwind coming out from Paul's side. Overall, a really good strategy. Such a fast-paced game with the blows trading left and right, back and forth. But still, I think Paul really had a very good game plan, leading with that Azumarill and Murkrow really catching Scarlet Skill on the lead there, pressuring that Talonflame, removing it immediately, and the Talonflame
right off the bat, just like done. You got a Tailwind off, but you're not lasting much longer than that.
True. Talonflame did not show Focus Sash, so I think Scarlet really needs to go back to the drawing board and reconsider his leads or maybe his strategy going into this matchup against Paul Ruiz's very bulky team.
Yeah. The Tailwind really worked out for Paul in that last match, and as you said before, that Talonflame just not able to hang around there very much, and then all of a sudden, the match instantly starting off as a 4v3 situations, putting Scarlet at a disadvantage here. So we'll see. Looks like we're rolling into round 2 here. We've got a couple of minutes before that starts, so we'll go ahead and transition on over there. But yeah, these teams, again, very, very interesting offensively. It's going to be interesting to see if Paul decides to If we get a chance to see that Salamence come out in this next match, we may or may not.
For me, I might want to see the Gallade come out because the Gallade is rocking
Yeah.
the life out here. As we can see, we get treated to some of the items. Really thanks to Dylan or Scarlet Skill for streaming his match from his perspective. And like this team, my friends like to say it's like find a focus sash team, and we do know actually the focus sash is on the Gengar instead of the Talonflame. Dylan really needs to get like that speed control right and put his mons in a very good position to really take key KOs. We saw so many KOs missed in the last round that Sludge Bomb into the Azumarill and it survived, the Thunderbolt into the Murkrow and it actually survived. So maybe he needs to change up his strategy to take some hits, but at the same time important KOs on poor Ruiz's side as we're heading into this exciting game 2 of this match.
Needs a little bit more offensive prowess on that side. And we see Salamence coming out for Paulo Ruiz as the lead is changed for Scarlet, going with Gengar and Rotom this time.
All right, guys, there is no Intimidate from that Salamence.
No Intimidate coming off that Salamence. A very, very interesting pick here. But yeah, very interesting leads. What do you think about this?
As usual, the Gengar would be faster, but now always leading the Murkrow, I think Paul really has a good game plan here to really threaten that damage right off the bat with the potential tearing, and he does go for it. So Salamence is easily going to get some damage off, but these two Pokemon should be able to survive. Oh my god, he's breaking the focus
wing beat. Oh, but right there.
Gengar survives, so still Gengar would then be able to fire off with 2 attacks, Gengar plus the Rotom. If he's able to take out that Salamence, it would be quite useful to take
could be critical here. Thunderbolt coming off of Rotom. It's going to go into the Murkrow instead. So Tailwind is still up for both these guys. Salamence surviving just with a sliver of HP there. But also a Gengar in a critical position. That dual wing beat, of course, breaking that focus sash. And not quite enough to clean it up, but still leaving it pretty close. Meowscarada definitely likes the situation it's in with that Tailwind behind it.
True, and this time Scarlet Skill does not have Tailwind on his side of the field, so could play defensive, protect first, maybe sack the Gengar and then bring that Talonflame in, then like get his mons fast with the staggered Tailwinds to then attack. That Icy Wind from that Gengar, really useful tech, pretty common move you see on Gengar, and chipping so much damage onto the Salamence is really useful, making sure that the Salamence is at -1. However, this Meowscarada is just really oppressive here. A very good pick, right? A very good starter evolution, being very fast and just threatening that Rotom with damage. So it seems like Scarlet Skill is opting to play defensive first and then get the Talonflame in and then figure out from there.
And we'll see the Grass Terastallization into Meowscarada, making some mean flower tricks very, very possible in this Tailwind. The Protect coming off of Rotom is going to keep it safe for at least one turn. And we see the flower trick heading off into, of course, that protected Rotom. So a great read here for Scarlet. The Dragon Claw will take out the rest of this Gengar, but could have been a lot worse for Scarlet.
True, and important information to discover here. There we go. Like that's why Salamence does not need Intimidate. In this day and age, people are like dropping Intimidate off. We did see that Flash Fire Arcanine earlier, right? And it's pretty true. You see that King Gambit on your screen right now, rocking that Defiance. So Intimidate is becoming less of an option, sorry. So Moxie is the choice for Salamence here. Critically in the previous turn, Gengar did not move first, even after bringing that Salamence speed down. So this is good information for both sides, especially for Scarlet Skill. Now he gets that Talonflame in. Now Rotom does threaten that Salamence with the KO. However, the Meowscarada is still sitting pretty comfortably with its Grass Terra head on, able to dish off good damage into the Rotom and trade that KO.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't like to see this Talonflame on the other side, but with the Tailwind buff still on its with it, it's going to actually go back instead, saving that powerhouse for later. Azumarill in its place, and that will be able to take whatever Talonflame throws at it. We see the Terastallization firing off here for Rotom. It's going to make sure that it is completely immune to any kind of attacks, of course, rocking that Levitate ability and being now a pure electric defensively. And of course, that 4-time stab on electric moves makes that Thunderbolt a mean mix. And we see the Brave Bird going off Talonflame into Azumarill. Dragonclaw is going to go into Talonflame and take it all the way out, giving it yet another Moxie boost that you just do not want to see on this mean dragon, especially in the hands of Paul Ruiz. Thunderbolt's going to fire off of this Rotom, and it's going to go straight into the Azumarill, taking it all the way off the field. So now it is a Scarlet, Terrastalized Rotom, and a double boosted Salamence here.
A lot
Very,
of
very interesting positioning.
a lot of interesting things to note. Number one, Talonflame did not set up Tailwind. He went straight for that Brave Bird, doubling into that Meowscarada switch. If the Brave Bird were to connect onto the Meowscarada, then it would have taken it out. Therefore, Scarlet targeted that Thunderbolt into that Meowscarada slot and catching the Azumarill on the switch in. So if the Meowscarada went down, the Thunderbolt would have gone into the Salamence. However, he did all this but did not set up Tailwind. So I'm not sure if this might bite him in the back here, because the Rotom, although it takes maybe takes a hit from that grass type Meowscarada, because it doesn't have that super effective damage anymore, but both mons are still slower. So Salamence does protect. It does make sense to protect from the Sucker Punch, but Scarlet actually reads it and Sucker Punches into the Meowscarada. Meowscarada goes for the low. Wow, it does not KO. That shows how bulky King Gambit is. Oh my gosh.
Oh, and the Defiant boost busting off there. That low kick, very, very critical here. Trying to reduce its speed. That Thunderbolt's going to go into Meowscarada, leaving Paul with just one Pokemon left.
No way! That's such a sick read. Like the Salamence is definitely threatened by the Sucker Punch. So Dylan, one game down, really just goes all in. I call that your Salamence is gonna protect. I double into the Meowscarada there, because if the Salamence did not protect, it would have taken one important KO. Then it would have been faster than the Rotom, possibly with the Tailwind still up, and possibly take that Rotom down. But Paul Ruiz forfeits here, and man, what a nice back and forth from both sides. Such high level plays from both ends.
Yes, and so that takes us now to a game 3. Incredible playing here on both sides. That Salamence putting forth a lot of pressure, but at the end of the day, Scarlet's able to kind of essentially ignore that Salamence and just play around it.
Like, he has Moxie, but I don't care, right? Like,
Right?
I do have my Gambit in my pocket to threaten that Sucker Punch at your slot. So this really shows how important priority moves are in this generation, which is why we see so many Indeedis and so many Giraffes running around, right? Because they are the mons that can block priority, but we do not see them here. This is really an explosive match, but still, in the back, really strategic from both ends. It really comes down to the leads. It really comes down to what mons you bring in the back. That Salamence reveal was super interesting. I think Scarlet did bring the same 4 mons, so let's see if he decides to do that in this critical game 3.
Yeah, it looks like we're about to transition right on over there. Of course, these teams we've already seen before. Different positioning here. Now, the leaving Talonflame in the back was very rewarding for Scarlet in this last match, right? Even though Talonflame still hasn't really gotten too much going, it usually is getting, taken out in maybe a turn. It's still having the threat of that in the back, especially with that Meowscarada posing such a threat, could still come to be pretty useful for both these trainers.
Well said. Yeah, like in game 1, Paul set up Tailwind later and he won. So game 2, Scarlet set up Tailwind later and he won. So game 3, who is gonna set up Tailwind? Who is gonna win this derby in front of them right here? As we do see the same beats from game 2. Oh, for both sides.
For both sides. So again, that's going to be that Murkrow Salamence combo and the Gengar and Rotom here for Scarlet. Very interesting, very solid leads for both candidates. It worked really well for Scarlet in particular in this last match. We'll see how Ruiz is able to play this, see if he's able to play it any differently.
Yeah, it was important that Paul Ruiz actually doubled, like kind of doubled with that Icy Wind plus that Thunderbolt combo into the Murkrow in turn 1. But we saw from the move selection here that he's actually doubling into the Salamence. So I mean Scarlet. Like, we're watching from Scarlet's perspective, but Paul really does have to make an educated choice here, whether to just go for that. Oh, what a nice read! Like, whether to just go for that Tailwind on turn 1, and it seems like he does not. He wants to break possibly Gengar's Focus Sash, as we do see the Icy Wind here manage to connect into the Murkrow importantly, and the Thunderbolt from that Rotom is going to hit into Salamence's Protect, while Murkrow, I believe, should go for that Foul Play into the Gengar. So pretty even state over here, and importantly staggering that tailwind turns instead of setting it up on turn 1.
Yeah, that Gengar was able to get a lot off on that Salamence this last turn. So this last match. So I think that this time Paul wants to make sure that it is off the field before it can even get anything started. Dual Wing Bait should be able to take it out now. It knows that it's faster. So it's a great positioning here and a great pivot here for Paul to try to go in here and adapt to that game 2. Really trying to see if it can make a difference in this game 3.
Yeah, super well said. Like such a nice like mix of moves right now, like mix
Right.
of choices, especially in this game 3 scenario where both players kind of have a feel of how each other play. So naturally the
And
Murkrow
there's the
should go for
Tailwind.
that tailwind. Yep. And the Salamence should go for that Dragon Claw, and such a good switch from Scarlet side, bringing in that King Gambit, taking so little damage, as we do see the Thunderbolt actually doing half damage into the Salamence. Really impressive from a little Rotom.
Yeah, Salamence does not like to take those electric type attacks, but that Tailwind could be critical here for Paul. We've seen the Tailwinds being crucial for both players and engaging that speed priority, making sure that they're attacking first. Now, Kingambit really isn't attacking before anything with its like base 50 speed, but that Sucker Punch, of course, is going to allow it to go in front of those Tailwinds, so it's always going to put that pressure on both sides of the field.
This is super tricky for Paul's side because number one, his Rotom's foul play, possibly the only attacking move, got Curse Body. So just showing how Gengar was so powerful in the early in early days of VGC, and even more powerful now. Salamence is forced to go for Protect even though it is under Tailwind just because of that Sucker Punch there. But good switch from from Paul, bringing that Meowscarada in while the Tailwind turns are slowly petering out, putting on a lot of pressure with that Meowscarada, with the option to go for low sweep into the King Gambit and the Flower Trick into the Rotom.
This is a really defensive play here for Paul, but it does put things very much in his favor, especially being able to eat up that big Thunderbolt coming out of the Rotom. You don't know if it could go for the same terrestrialization as it's been doing in the past and really boost the power of that. And it looks like from where Meowscarada is, could probably have taken that too. So it was a really smart play there, really good use of the type advantages. And even though you're not getting much off, offensively, it's a really good pivot there. So Kingambit's going to come back on Scarlet side, and out comes Gengar, likely to not be able to take much of a hit, but a good type advantage here against this Meowscarada. Protect going off of the Rotom. So another kind of defensive pivot here for Scarlet side. This time Meowscarada is going to go for the low sweep. Does not affect Gengar, so completely immune to that. The Dragon Dance going off for Salamence, making it just a little bit faster like it needed it, and it boosting its attack also like it needed it.
Oh my god, I love this because in game 3, for 2 games, Paul didn't reveal. I mean, he only brought Salamence in game 2, but he did not reveal the choice of Dragon Dance. He did reveal Protect, right? To possibly ignore that Sucker Punch. But this is yet another move to not get hit by Sucker Punch because King Gambit is just so threatened by both Pokemon that it kind of has to go for that Sucker Punch. So Scarlet decides to play defensive and switch out. But this actually bites him in the butt there, as Paul actually has that option to go for Dragon Dance now, and Salamence is just so like oppressive, and it really can pack a punch and put on so much damage in front of both these Gengar and the Rotom.
Scarlet is going to switch off on Paul's side. Out comes that Murkrow. Now that Curse Body is going to allow it to hit another critical foul play. The Terrestrialization coming off for Scarlet's side, likely going into that Rotom once again, making it, of course, completely immune to everything with its Levitate ability, and now double bonus on its Electric Stab. Really has a lot of potential here. Salamence is going to go for the Protect, keeping itself safe for yet another turn, as Gengar goes for the Icy Wind, which should connect on this Murkrow. We see it just taking just a chisel of health. Pretty bulky for a small little Murkrow, but of course Icy Wind not doing too much damage coming from that Gengar in general. And we see the Tailwind going out for, believe that was for Paul. So now Murkrow is in a position where they can set that right back up once again and get themselves into a good spot to sweep.
That was a beautiful turn from Paul, and it's always such a pleasure to watch him play because
Mm.
he knew that was the last turn of Tailwind. He knew that there would be possibly a double up going into the Salamence, and Salamence is
Right.
one of his most important pieces of the puzzle to try and defeat Scarlet's skill here. So he protects, he plays defensive, and gets the Murkrow in now to get that Tailwind off, and now Salamence can take the important KO. It should go into the Rotom. Yep. Oh my gosh, Rotom, but Rotom is just too bulky. It actually survives and actually eats Citrus Berry, if I'm not wrong. So now Paul might be in a tough spot. He really needs to count on the two Pokemon.
Oh, and Gengar picks up a KO here with the Icy Wind and leaves Murkrow with just a sliver of health. A big, big offensive force eliminated now on Paul's side. And here comes the Thunderbolt, which would be able to clean up this Murkrow. A big momentum shift here now in Scarlet's favor in this round, in this game 3.
Yeah, so Paul, on the bright side, has 3 full turns of Tailwind left. Two pretty healthy mons, I believe, in the back to really put on that pressure and try to take on that reverse sweep. I believe now it's a 2v4 situation. So really back against the wall. We do have to see how this Meowscarada and this Azumarill can make an impact. Critically, that bulk from that Rotom, even at a +1 Dragon Dance from the Salamence, still able to take that Dragon Claw. Is just really impressive, which is why we see so many Rotoms being the water Pokemon of choice these days. I think Paul might be, like considering other dragon types, like maybe Hydreigon or Garchomp could be more powerful, because of that lackluster damage from that Salamence. But let's see how the rest of the turns play out here. Can Paul actually clutch it back?
Going into that Rotom will be enough to take it out. So now this 2-on-4 situation becomes quickly a 2-on-3. And of course, the loss of terrestrialization here is going to be critical. Aqua Jet firing off of this Azumarill will be enough to pick up the Gengar. And now this 4v2 situation is now a 2v2 situation.
There
the
we go.
scoreboard is evened back up for Paul.
Yep, we are in the end game now. Talonflame does come out. King Gambit, the pretty good matchup against both sides, except the Meowscarada has that low sweep. But now Talonflame can actually match Tailwinds. But I would say it's pretty difficult to go for the Tailwind now, since Meowscarada in Tailwind already is the fastest on the field. So yeah, Scarlet has to play his cards really carefully, maybe make some very sick gamer reads here. Really needs to get rid of that Meowscarada first. And we already saw in game 1 the Azumarill's Aqua Jet is a 1-hit KO onto the Talonflame. So Paul really playing his cards right.
We have
such a technical game.
We know at least the Aqua Jet can't come off because of that Curse Body. So Sucker Punch is actually going to be what they try to go with for the Talonflame. Talonflame's going to hit back with a Brave Bird. It's enough to take out Meowscarada. So that should be enough to even up the score here. But I think the recoil here may be enough to take out Talonflame. Nope, Talonflame hangs in by just a hair as the Azumarill goes for a belly drum. A critical play here. Will it be enough? It's back for Paul. We shall see here in just a second. Looks like our feed's getting just a little bit of lag here, but we're catching up. There we go. Ironhead firing off Kingambit into Azumarill. It still is able to survive. Critical survival here by Azumarill. Is it going to be enough to take out both sides of the field, though?
Yeah, thanks for catching me on there with the Aqua Jet. I missed it. I missed the text that said the Aqua Jet was disabled by the Curse Body, and that's so crucial for Paul here because he's really backed into a corner. I think he really went for that belly drum just as a last ditch effort. Maybe the Scarlet maybe misplays or does very little damage, but this is quite difficult for the little Azumarill to close out the game, as the Sucker Punch and the Brave Bird easily takes that KO onto the Azumarill. Man, what a close game and such a nice comeback from Scarlet.
Yeah, what a win here for Scarlet. Hell of a plays. Really critical usage of Kingambit here. I think really one of the biggest ones to talk about is the use of that Talonflame. I mean, it in each scenario, it didn't really last on the field very long. But what it did bring there was some critical Tailwind support and some critical Brave Birds when it really needed to. I think that was absolutely one of the biggest MVPs on Scarlet's side. Who would you say?
I totally agree with you. Excellently, very well said, because this is the the form of team building where people have to decide, because both the Talonflame and the Murkrow do have options to set up Tailwind with priority, except the Talonflame actually does like have an additional element of putting on offensive pressure, like we did see with all those Brave Bird damages.
Right.
Like in spite of it hitting itself with damage, it always comes in and plays its part and does so many critical KOs, which is why now in the metagame I'm noticing that more people are transitioning towards the Talonflame more than that Murkrow, as we do see some of that Dondozos like running low. So maybe we don't need haste anymore. Maybe we need more offensive power coming out from that Talonflame. So easily the MVP on Scarlet skills side, going toe to toe with the opposing Tailwind setter and really coming out on top.
Yeah, that Murkrow, of course, it didn't have not nearly as much offensive pressure. You had the foul play support, which was really good for dealing with the Gengar in particular, but that was really all it could really. It ended up being able to match up well against. And honestly, when it did that, it was such lower in the speed tiers that you knew it was always going last, and it feels like you weren't getting as much of that Murkrow out as you would ideally like to. But absolutely critical plays here by Scarlet. That will do it for us for round 7. Up next will be the final round of Swiss for this evening, so don't go anywhere. There's plenty more Widely coming your way right after this break.